Rutgers fans, if you had told me prior to this game that the keys to victory that I had laid out came to fruition, yet Rutgers still lost the game, I'd be flabbergasted. Absolutely, like, what are we talking about? How is that possible? But that is, in fact, possible. Scarlet Knights go down in Lincoln, Nebraska, 14-7 to the Cornhuskers. The game, in many ways, at the end of the day, was kind of close, but the score really wasn't. I guess I could say it wasn't close, but it was most of the game. It's just that Rutgers absolutely couldn't score any points until the end of the fourth quarter. But the game itself wasn't even that lopsided if you really take it all into consideration. Just to set out and tell you from jump, I'm not in 2024, this many years into the Schiano 2.0 regime, this deep into the pipeline he talks about, this far into the talent we have. I'm not going to sit here and give you any moral victories. I'm not going to give the team any moral victories because they went into Lincoln and lost by a touchdown and really almost lost to 2 touchdowns had it not been for a very late touchdown by Ben Black, and we'll get to that. I just can't do it. I can't sit here and say, oh, there's a lot to gain from this, take it as a moral victory, because at some point I've been preaching, and we've all been preaching, that at some point they've got to just do it. They've got to stop coming close. They've got to stop having great opportunities to do it, and they've got to just do it. And once again today, they didn't do it. Now, does that mean that there was nothing at all positive to take from this game? Does that mean that this game was some kind of embarrassing, huge letdown? The answer to those questions is no, an emphatic no. You look at the stat sheet, all said and done. Now, this didn't necessarily look this way even partially the way through the third quarter, but nonetheless, it still matters. You look at the stat sheet here, and total yards, Rutgers 262, Nebraska 263. Passing yards, Rutgers 186, Nebraska 164. Rushing yards, Rutgers 76, Nebraska 99. So almost even in yards total, with Rutgers just one less than Nebraska. Rutgers outpasses Nebraska by about 20 plus yards. And I think a lot of the story of the game is going to come down to what people are going to be talking about, and rightfully so, is the rushing yards, where Rutgers, by 23 yards, underperforms Nebraska. Now, and I'm sorry I'm fixing my computer here for those watching on YouTube, but that might be the story of the game, because Rutgers comes in as a rushing is their bread and butter, and yet they underperform Nebraska in rushing yards. Nebraska comes in with Dylan Raiola as their bread and butter. And I talked to TJ going into the game, you guys heard. He said, hey, the offense runs through Raiola. He stirs the drink. And Rutgers outpasses Nebraska. How did they lose? Well, it's an interesting and a complicated story, and I think a lot of it is going to be dissected all week long. Some coaching decisions that I think people are going to think is questionable. But there are certain stats that tell part of the story. Again, Rutgers, 18 first downs, Nebraska, 16. Third down efficiency, though, I mean, not even close, really. 2 of 15 for Rutgers on third down, 7 of 18 for Nebraska. Fourth down efficiency, Rutgers, 2 of 6. Nebraska, 3 of 3. Plays are even. Rutgers with 70, Nebraska with 69. Nebraska punted more times, 8 to Rutgers, 4. Penalties, 6 for Nebraska, 4 for Rutgers. Just a really interesting game where I said that in order for Rutgers to win, they'd need to run the ball effectively, be efficient in the passing game, and their defense would need to step up, and their defense would need to get some sacks for once. And the interesting part of this story here is that Rutgers finally comes through with sacks. And Rutgers finally gets home on the quarterback and rattles, honestly, I thought rattled to an extent, Dylan Raiola. Throws an interception, 13 of 27 for only 134 yards, no touchdowns. You'd take those stats 9 out of 10 times going into this game if you were Rutgers and think, well, Rutgers is going to come away with a victory. If they can hold Raiola to 13 completed passes for 134 yards and 1 interception, it's going to look good for them, right? under 50% for Raiola. But then the other side of the coin, the other side of the story is, despite the defense doing their job, especially in the second half, I thought the defense looked pretty good. And there's been other times where the defense has looked good, but they've struggled. And I said the defense was struggling all year. But this year, I mean, this game, the defense kind of came out and got some pressure, especially late in the game. I thought they were showing some promise. You had the interception. Special teams, you have Wright Collins with the punt block. It's returned by Shaquan Loyal all the way down to the 2-yard line. The story of this game is a lot of the offense, which it's the flip side, the 180 alternate personality, the alternate reality to what we've been seeing all year, where the defense steps up when it needs to and the offense just coming up with blanks over and over and over again. Ethan Kaliakmanis, 15 of 37. 15 of 37 for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions, under 50% completion percentage. Rough day for Ethan Kaliakmanis. And I'll say Ethan came into the program with a lot of fanfare. People were excited that he was going to be what many expected, more accurate than Gavin Wimsatt. He had shown that through the first 4 games. There was an efficiency to the passing game. There was a certain optimism to the passing game when leading the team down the field, when trying to get the ball into the hands of playmakers, especially in the intermediate game. There were plays to be made downfield. Plays were made downfield. And Ethan was in many ways and is in many ways a step up as far as accuracy in throwing the ball to Gavin Wimsatt. That being said, there were conversations all along that Ethan may be an upgrade, but how much of an upgrade? Is it a marginal improvement? Is it a huge improvement? And there was a lot of talk that, look, even if it's a huge improvement accuracy-wise over Gavin Wimsatt, Ethan Kaliakmanis is not coming in to be a Heisman candidate. Ethan Kaliakmanis is not coming in to set the world on fire, throwing the ball every game, game in and game out. And here with a sub 50% passer, completion percentage, you see that there are going to be some games when Ethan is not going to get it done, and that is similar to Gavin type numbers there, slightly worse. It's one game. You can't sit there and say that that's indicative of the entire season. It's not, flat out. You can't say it's going to be indicative of the rest of the season. Hopefully it's not. And Ethan did come through at the end of the game. More on that in a minute. But you have Kyle Monangai, who rushes the ball. I think it was only 8 times for 64 yards in the first half, the first quarter. And he's running the ball fairly effectively, Kyle. You plug Taj White in for Brian Felter. Brian Felter's out for the season. That's tough to take. I was at the game last week. I saw Felter go down. Felter came back. I reported on the fact that he came back. I expected him to be back. I thought we dodged a serious bullet because the way Felter went down, non-contact injury, kind of away from the play, looked like he would have hurt his knee, kind of limped off gingerly. Football fans have seen that time and time again. Football players, football coaches, anybody involved in the game of football has seen that injury numerous times. And many times, at least 7 or 8 out of 10 times, that's a season-ending knee injury. He comes back. He plays pretty well for the rest of the game. You expect that maybe you dodged a bullet, but you don't. Felter's out for the season, and I thought that might be tough. Taj White comes in. He was more looked at as a tackle. He winds up playing guard. Some serious whiffs from White in there, and it led to some breakdowns, especially in pass protection, I thought. Ethan was under duress on a lot of plays, and I think it probably affected his ability to land the ball accurately. Maybe it got into his head. Maybe the moment. I don't know exactly. I don't know if Ethan's 100%. He's got the knee brace on. It looked like he might have been dealing with some issues there. But in run blocking, I thought the line was looking pretty good early on, and Kyle Monangai was kind of having his way in some ways. And then you switch all of a sudden, especially subsequent to an interception, where you have a golden opportunity heading towards halftime. You switch to throwing the ball, and you don't throw the ball very effectively. You coming off an interception, you wind up with an interception, and Nebraska is able to hold you off. It's crazy when you look at the punt numbers. Nebraska's punting the ball so many more times than Rutgers because Rutgers is in the red zone or at least in Nebraska territory, several times, but then goes for it on fourth down and doesn't convert, kicks a ridiculously long field goal again on the road, 52 yards. Jay Patel misses it. It doinks off. I mean, I kind of got a feel for Patel at this point. I know some people are giving him some criticism, but when the kid is put in positions where he's kicking 50-plus yarders, and then when he could kick a shorter, closer-in kick, we're going for it on fourth down instead of taking the points, it's kind of tough to get consistency. It's kind of tough to look good on the stat sheet because you're kicking from farther away. But I think some of the story of this game is going to be going away from the running game at times when you should have leaned into it. Athan did not have a good day. Not only that, he had a line that was hurting a little bit in pass protection. And I just don't think the play calling was very good today in terms of understanding when to call the right play at the right time and what to lean into based on the way the game is going. Easy for me to say. I'm sitting here in Newark, New Jersey, talking to you guys, and I have the power, of hindsight and the power of this wide view here from the television. But still, it's got to be questioned a little bit. We had some of that in the second half against Virginia Tech. Washington, I thought it was better as far as the offense goes, but just the coaching calls and decision-making, I thought, just being honest, left something to be desired in terms of when you take points, when you don't, and the kind of calls you make. You have first and goal from the 2-yard line, and you can't get in. Now, there's some controversy there. Many will say Kyle got in. It was not reviewable. Rutgers hurries up to the ball, also kind of questionable there. But we don't get the points. You end up trying to throw the ball. It doesn't succeed. Almost winds up picked. And you got to wonder, hey, one play to do it all. 2 yards to go. Even if you tried 3 times and you didn't get it. What's your go-to here? Is it really to lean into Athan Kaliakmanis, who has struggled, threw an interception that looked like it was behind long, kind of had an issue throwing behind guys a lot of the day today, was under duress? Are you going to put the ball with one play in the hands of Athan, or are you going to put it into the hands of Kyle Monangai? And I just thought that's the type of decision. What about the tush push that we worked? It worked later in the game. We had to get a first down. What about the tush push? I mean, put the ball in the hands of guys who are reliable in that situation. First and goal from the 2. I understand the controversy of the call that he was short of the line. I understand that, but when you got fourth down, I mean, tote the rock with Kyle. I hate to question, and I understand. See, last week a lot of people had a problem with Schiano punting the ball at midfield against Washington, and they drove back and scored. I still think that was the right decision. A lot of people think it was the wrong decision. No, it wasn't. Play smart. Punt the ball there. Kicking 52-yard field goals. At least try to run and get some more yards to make it more comfortable. Maybe try to pin them. It wasn't like Nebraska was going on a scoring spree. Quite the opposite today. Just frustrating in those ways. Ben Black, there was a lot of talk about, the talent of the young guys coming in, this pipeline being full. Ben Black comes in, 2 receptions for 54 yards, 1 touchdown. He could have had another touchdown, and it was just the only time of this game where I got up and was just yelling. I mean, to the point other people in my house are like, what are you yelling about? I had to show them the play. This is what I'm yelling about. Just really huge missed opportunity. It was thrown a little bit behind. It was on his shoulder helmet. You got to catch that. But Ben Black gets redemption. Excellent catch. And then fighting his way to the end zone late in the game. The lone touchdown of the game for Rutgers. Revelation for Ben Black. He's going to be a talented player. He's going to be a good one. We'd heard that he was going to be a good one for a lot of the offseason, the preseason. Turns out he is. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Ian Strong couldn't go. KJ Duff started in his place. that's a loss for Rutgers whenever you have an injury to a player like Ian Strong, who has been doing a lot. But now injuries start to pile up. There's no excuses. You've got to have a next man up mentality and run with it. And if Taj White and the line is struggling a bit in pass pro, lean into your running game. Lean into your running game. And it wasn't just the line. The line had something to do, I think, with Athan's lack of accuracy. But he had a lack of accuracy. Lean into your running game. I thought that was a real problem. It's nice to see the defense step up the way it has. I had told you, which is I think so frustrating for me, is that I had told anybody who would listen, really, that if the defense can turn the corner this week, it might really bode well for Rutgers, and I might have to eat my prediction. I predicted Rutgers would lose. I think I said by a touchdown, but I could be wrong now. I got to remember. I got to go back to my I thought I said 28-21 or something. I thought they'd lose by a touchdown. The spread, I think, was just under a touchdown. I thought maybe it was accurate. Maybe it was a bit much. I did predict that this would be a loss for Rutgers. Right? I predicted that we would start the season 4-0 preseason. I predicted this would be Rutgers' first loss of the season. I think what upsets me about the loss is I didn't expect to lose because of this. I thought maybe Dylan Raiola, the really talented quarterback, would be able to put up yards and numbers and make plays on our defense, who had been a bit suspect all year. And our offense would be efficient as it had been all year, but just not be able to match Nebraska's offensive output. And what happened was the defense bowed up, and Nebraska's offensive output was not all that great. But Rutgers' offense was just simply not good enough. And again, I really just can't give a moral victory anymore, because you just got to get it done with the opportunities presented to you. When Nebraska's a good team, and that crowd was loud, and the atmosphere was everything that we were told it was going to be, everything that we expected. Dylan Raiola looks like somewhat of a grown man out there. They've got a good team, but we had an opportunity where they only scored 14 points, where Raiola was not having the best game of his career so far, and where we were finally able to get pressure, and we still couldn't bring it home. It's frustrating. I told anybody who would listen all week, back to my initial point, anybody who would listen, that if Rutgers' defense turned the corner, they might win. That was the key to winning, and it would be a great time for Rutgers' defense to turn the corner this week against the Huskers. And they kind of did turn the corner, yet when they turned the corner, the offense just wasn't there. And I thought the story of the game, too, partly coaching, and then partly the lack of being able to play complementary football. And I don't know if that's anything you can pinpoint in terms of something that's correctable, something that's adjustable. That just might be bad luck. And Rutgers had 4 or 5 sacks in that game. Keontae Hamilton with the really clutch sack at the end. Just difficult. And it was funny. I think they tied or surpassed their season total. They had 4 sacks lead going into today, and they had 4 or 5 sacks today alone. So the defense in some ways turned the corner, and you'd think that that would be the recipe for success for Rutgers. That would be the recipe for us to get over the hump. But just when the defense turns the corner, the offense isn't there. And I don't think it was. They weren't playing complementary football. You get a punt block, which is a huge golden opportunity. A punt block, which is a golden opportunity, and you get it down to the 2-yard line. The 2-yard line, and you cannot get it in. You get the ball, and Ethan Kaliakmanis is throwing the ball from his own end zone, backed up, pass pro breaking down again, and he launches the ball up to Ben Black. Beautiful throw, beautiful catch. And then we work it down, and it's another beautiful throw, and Ben Black drops it. Just Missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity on the road. No more moral victories, Rutgers. You got to just do it at some point. At some point, these golden opportunities have to turn into actual victories. And it's frustrating as fans to watch another golden opportunity slip away. Now, that being all said, all is not lost. Now, there was this Robert Redford film, 2013. He was in a boat and it was sinking and there's almost no dialogue in the whole thing. Robert Redford, very much at the end of his career, just a great performance, great film. And it's called All Is Lost. And I don't know why, but as this game was winding down and the frustration was seeping into me a bit, I couldn't help but sit there and think kind of the converse of that, which was, all is not lost, right? All is not lost. I had predicted that Rutgers would lose this game. I also predicted a 9-3 record for Rutgers. So we come home now next week with a noon kickoff against a Wisconsin team without their quarterback that they started the season with. A Wisconsin team that in many ways is looking vulnerable for the first time in a long time. You can't add the Cornhuskers to our redemption tour of teams that we haven't been able to get over the hump with. I'm not counting Wisconsin right now after this loss as some kind of victory. But I am saying that all the opportunities we set out to attain are still there in front of us as Rutgers fans. It's still possible. And so what can you take from this game? Although I'm not handing out moral victories in this game, I think it's important to note that if the defense has turned the corner in some ways, and I know, look, there were some bad angles again from Powell, some bad coverage from Walker at points, but then Walker was, I saw him in a couple plays starting to turn the corner a bit. Jabome in there with nice hits. This was a very talented quarterback with talented weapons, and Rutgers held them to 2 touchdowns on the day. And it's not to take anything away from the Huskers at all. But we went in on the road in a tough environment to a team that is now 5-1, one of the better teams in the Big Ten. And we held them to 14 points, and in a lot of ways, we beat them in yards in some instances, passing yards. We got into their territory several times. We held a very talented quarterback to not a great day passing the football. We blocked a punt. I know Nebraska has had some problems with kicks, and we exploited that. But if you're going to take anything away from it, take away from it the fact that we didn't get pummeled. Rutgers wasn't exposed in some way as being pretenders or exposed in some way with this ridiculous weakness we were unaware of that other teams can use as a blueprint to defeat us that completely takes our season off track. The worst thing you probably take from this game is that without Brian Felter, we're going to have to do something to improve the pass protection and improve the overall cohesion of the line. That's a tough loss. I didn't get to talk to you about it because the news wasn't announced until today. Losing Brian Felter is a tough loss, and hopefully Ian Strong isn't out for the long haul. But you have a revelation that is Ben Black. You get up and you keep fighting. Yeah, is the revelation, maybe you might say, that Ethan Kaliakmanis is not the most accurate passer all the time, consistently, week in and week out? Yeah, but that's not really a revelation because we kind of knew that was possible. And quite frankly, Ethan Kaliakmanis at the end of that game, landing those passes to Ben Black and doing it under duress even at times from his own end zone shows that the kid still got grit, the kid still got potential. And if the defense can turn it on and do what they did to other teams, what they did to Dylan Raiola in Nebraska today and their playmakers, well, they've got a chance to win many more games this season. All is not lost. All is not lost. I thought we'd lose the game. I thought we'd lose the game by about a touchdown. We did. Was it a frustrating way to lose? Was it the loss of an opportunity? You're darn right it was. You're darn right it was. Is it frustrating? You're darn right it is. I'll say you're damn right it is. I don't know. I'm trying to keep it somewhat clean on this cast, but, you're damn right it is. But all is not lost for this team. Hopefully there weren't a ton more injuries. We'll get the report an hour before the game next Saturday, I guess. And hopefully the coaching staff takes a look in the mirror a little bit. I mean, it's just a frustrating game because there were so many opportunities left on the field. And when you have that many opportunities left on the field, it's a missed chance to really do something special with the season. It just is, at this point anyway. Doesn't mean they're not redeemable. Doesn't mean all is lost. But it's tough because I would have told you that if we had turned the corner defensively like that, we would have won the game. And the fact that our offense was just unable to capitalize, unable to bring it home, get points is ridiculous. But part of that's on play calling. Part of that's on coaching decisions. Part of that's on a line that's a little more banged up without one of the better players. I love Felter. So it's a and remember, Nebraska has really good players. They made plays when they needed to. They weren't doing as well with the passing game. They got the running game to get their scores. The fake punt didn't amount to actual points, but it was a smart play. Their defense bowed up. Just like last week, you could say Washington and Washington's offense was unable to actually punch it in and go into the red zone because our defense bowed up. Well, Nebraska's defense bowed up when they needed to. They got a good pass rush going that knocked our quarterback off kilter. And their fans showed up and were loud, and it was a tough road game. It just is what it is. You're going to lose some of those games. It's just the way we lost that is frustrating. Overall, though, it doesn't change my season prediction, which was a really ambitious and bullish prediction, and I'm still there. I think if the defense turned the corner to an extent and they got their mojo back and the dark side defense knows what they have to do to get to the quarterback and to hold teams to 2 scores for the game and make the kind of impact in the clutch that they were able to do today to give the ball back to our offense who ultimately couldn't get it done. And I mean, that's another coaching thing there and just execution thing. Christian Dremel, he's punting the ball late in the game. Field the ball. Field the ball. That ball bounces all the way down to the 11-yard line. Get under that ball and catch that ball. And don't let it go all the way to the 11-yard line with under 2 minutes left for your offense to make its way all the way down the field to tie the game. Field that ball. I mean, come on. What are we doing with some of this stuff? That's coaching. That's execution. That's what that is. And the good news is, like I said, all is not lost. The good news is this team played to a point where they could have tied the game. They could have feasibly won the game, but they just didn't. They didn't get it done. They didn't get it done when the heat was on. It's a missed opportunity. There's no moral victories. So I'm not awarding a moral victory whatsoever, but I am saying that all is not lost. What we saw from this game, we can take that and we can improve going forward, and they can win games going forward. That's a fact. You start with Wisconsin. This is a team you haven't been able to beat. This is a Big Ten legacy powerhouse type program. They're coming into Piscataway. They got some issues. Beat them. Beat them and get back on track. Get to the record Nebraska has. Get to 5-1 and get back on track and continue with the mission. Chop the moment, chop the game, continue to chop. Those stats, those defensive stats for Rutgers, how even the game was after all is said and done, aside from execution and scoring the points needed, the missed opportunities, there's stuff we can take from the game. It's not a rah-rah moral victory, but there's things you can learn from that game. The coaching staff has to do better. The execution has to be better. The play calling has to be better. The quarterback's got to be better. Pass protection has to be better. And we've got to clean it up, get right, and get moving. It was a road loss, a tough loss, a loss I predicted. It is what it is. Wisconsin next week. I'll be with you guys later in the week to do a Wisconsin preview. If you haven't done so, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. What are we waiting for? There's no reason to wait any longer. Hit that subscribe button. Click that subscribe button. Join Night Watch. Gets me on the mic to talk to you because I got a lot of things going on, but because you guys support the channel, I'm able to continue to do this. If you're listening on YouTube or elsewhere, remember this is available as an audio-only podcast on every major podcasting platform. Apple, iHeartRadio, Audible, anywhere you get your podcasts. Go download it and subscribe to the audio version. Listen on your way to work. Listen while you're around the house, whatever you're doing. Take a listen to Night Watch with Larry K. And if you're on the podcast audio only now, take some time if you have a chance, if you have a YouTube account, to go to YouTube and click subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. I've got some other things in the works. Basketball season's coming up. Hopefully some more collaborations with the other content creators out there in the world. I've been bringing you some previews from behind enemy lines with insiders from other programs. I'll continue to do that. And as you go through your Sunday and you go through the rest of your weekend and you deal with this, another missed opportunity for Rutgers, just know Nebraska's a good team. Rutgers shown some good things against them. It was a tough road loss, a road loss that I predicted, a road loss that many predicted. And all is not lost. There is still so much to be done in this season, and it can be done. I will see you all bright and early for Wisconsin next week at SHI Stadium. I believe Paul Robeson, there's going to be a statue or something of Paul Robeson unveiled on Saturday, I believe. So come through, enjoy that game, and I'll talk to you guys earlier this week, previewing the Wisconsin game. We'll update things. We'll go touch up some of the whatever I got wrong on this show, and we'll get back to business. Make sure you go out and listen to the other content creators out there, the other post-game shows. Contribute anywhere you can to Rutgers communities. Click that subscribe button. I appreciate it so much. It's right there. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Larry K. out.